Welcome to Backstage with Richard Ridge. Malloy University presents Seth Rudetsky and his Broadway friends on Tuesday, November 25th at 7 p.m. at Carnegie Hall. It will be an intimate evening featuring Broadway stars singing songs that shaped their careers, from early roles in junior high school, community theater, to the performances that brought them to Broadway. And one of them is my guest. Please welcome Zachary Noah Piser. How are
Hello.
you? I was going to ask you, what a beautiful backdrop. Where are you, my friend?
Well, funny you should ask. I'm doing a workshop in one of the beloved, rehearsal spaces in Midtown, and I was like, you know what? Why not give the people really an in-depth look of what it's like to be a working, hustling actor? So here we are. We're in Pearl Studios. I found a little space, and if we get yelled at or hear people warming up, it's not me. It's all the amazing people who are coming through here and auditioning and strutting their stuff.
Isn't it great though when you stand in the hallway and you realize, oh my gosh, that was me once, or that is still me now, or whatever, but you
Oh my
look
gosh.
at and you go back to what this evening is going to be back. So let's talk about this evening, November 25th. You're going to be at Carnegie Hall with Seth Rudetsky and some of your amazing Broadway friends. How excited are you?
I've performed at Carnegie Hall a couple times, but never in such a lineup. I mean, in a way that is just so incredibly exciting. And when Seth reached out to me and when I found out who else was doing it, I don't think I've sent an email faster saying like, yes, please. Because it's just people that I look up to. I mean, every single person on that list is someone who I either have worked with or I hope to work with or dream of working with because they have such an incredible reputation and their body of work is so incredible. So just the fact that I just feel so honored to be included in the lineup. And I think it is going to be, I don't think, I know it is going to be a truly extraordinary evening.
Okay, let's talk about being on the stage at Carnegie Hall. What is that like when you walk into the building, you walk through the red velvet chairs, and you step on that stage? What's that feeling like?
I remember the first time that I did, and most recently I did, there was a Hello Dolly production with the Transport Group. I think that's right. And I remember walking on stage and every single time it is just like truly it takes your breath away. You're looking at this one of the most iconic venues ever, and you're like, oh my gosh. I'm about to sing here. Someone wants me to sing on the stage where all the legends and greats have performed solo shows, numbers, material. And I know that every single time, I don't think that'll ever wear off. Even if I have the great fortune of performing at Carnegie Hall every month for the rest of my life, I think every time you get into that sacred space, you feel it. You feel the magic. You feel the ghosts, the good and the great. You just feel that kind of special something when you're performing or about to perform at Carnegie Hall.
Well, you were sensational. That Hello Dolly night for Transport was amazing, as you were. It was
Oh,
really, and I try to explain to people it's going to be like a Broadway rock concert the night you're there on the 25th, because all the fans are going to come out to see Seth and all of you make magic on that stage. So, what can you tell us right now? Because we're going back to like community theater shows we started out doing. I mean,
well, I didn't check to see if I'm allowed to tell you what I'm going to sing, but what I
yes,
will
you
say
can.
with you is that I'm allowed to.
I think so. Yes, you can.
Richie gonna get me in trouble.
I would.
Well, this is what I'll say because I'm still finalizing my material. What I will say is that I think the material that I'm going to perform, I'm potentially doing a duet with a very exciting other performer that I'm really, really excited to perform with. Um, oh gosh, I don't know if I'm allowed to say, but I'm performing a duet with someone who rhymes with schmoy schmuds. And potentially, and if it doesn't happen, you can't get me in trouble for that because things change. It's Broadway. But then the other material that I'm going to sing is from, I would say, some of the earlier parts of my career where I really feel like I was given an incredible opportunity to lead a show. Maybe that's like a little bit of a hint. And then potentially another material from a more recent show that I did that was very near and dear. But it's exactly what you said, where it's like we all get to, when people ask me like, what song should I audition with or perform? And I always answer like, do the material that you love to sing, because that's the material that we will feel that as the audience member. And I think, and I know that this evening will be pretty much, if it's not a role that we performed, a bucket list role or a role that is so dear to us for another reason with our fellow Broadway comrades. And I think that is what is going to make this a particularly elite evening where it's just everyone doing what they love to do.
Wow. So what I want to ask you, you talk about audition songs.
Mm.
What was your like go-to audition song early on? Like you'd be like, oh my God, I usually sang this song and I at least got a call back, if not got the job.
Absolutely. I mean, my main audition song, which I haven't pulled out, but at some point I will, is the titular song from Starlight Express. And I will never forget. I was like, I think it was, I had some of my first, like real big auditions when I was still in college. And I would fly myself out from Chicago to New York. And I remember the first time I ever used that song, this casting director who I now am quite close with, I remember she literally looked at me and she was like, I said, no, I started, I said, hi, my name is Zach Piser, and I'm going to be singing Starlight Express from Starlight Express. And this amazing casting director just looked at me and so sweetly said, why? And I said, well, hopefully you find out after I sing this. And after I sang it, she said, I now see why you sing this song. I am not going to be singing that at Carnegie Hall, but I mean, also, who knows? That show is in the West End. Isn't it currently in the West End right now, or just happened in the West End? So, putting it out there, if they want a Rusty, I'm here, I'm available.
Okay, so I saw the original production in London, just so you know, at the Apollo Theater. I had the best time, and that song is a killer song. So I'm sure you got roles for whatever else from singing that song. And boy, you would make an incredible Rusty, just so you know.
Thanks, Richie.
So you wanted to be a veterinarian too. So I'm looking back at your career and I'm like, wait a minute. Here is someone with this killer voice and a killer actor. It's like, I think I want to be Dr. Doolittle.
I love that you know this about me. And it's, yeah, when I went to school, so I went to Northwestern and I always loved watching theater, but I never really thought that it was something that I could do for a living. And it's not for lack of mentors. I had people who were like, I think you don't suck at this. Maybe, look into doing some training. And so ultimately I went to Northwestern as a biology major. And then ultimately decided because my other love always was I love being a student, I love studying sciences, and I've always loved animals. And so it was a pretty clear path for me. And then when I was at school, it very quickly became apparent that being a double major in theater and something completely opposite was very common. And so I very quickly kind of decided to do that track and fulfilled both all of my requirements. And I have no regrets about it. Right now, I still have friends jokingly who are like, oh, my leg hurts. Can you help me? Can you look at it? And I'm like, I don't know a single thing. I couldn't tell you about organic chemistry, about anything. But I'm so grateful for the experience and the education that I had because I think it helped me be a more well-rounded person that kind of helped me be able to utilize my brain in different ways. And so, of course, it hasn't come in like actual handy. I haven't yet played, although there is a little bit of medical terminology, and I may or may not be playing some kind of medical personnel in The Heart, which I told you about that show that happened in La Jolla. So, you never say never. But I have yet to come across a musical that stars a veterinarian. So, put that in the universe too. But yeah.
Okay, so when you do your nightclub act, you have to do Talk to the Animals from Dr. Doolittle, Leslie Bricusse, Anthony Newley, just so you know that's got to go into your act. And I will sit there and I will throw roses at the stage at you, rose petals, and I'll be the person screaming the most during that because I love that movie. I love those songs and that. So that's going in your nightclub act.
Richie, you're going to be the first call. I'm going to be like, Richie, what's my material? What's my set? I have to write that down. You'll have to send that to me later so I know that
Oh,
down.
I will. Don't you worry, my friend. So you just finished The Heart. I have to tell we talked before we went on camera. The Heart is the new musical that just played out in San Diego that everybody who I've known who have gone out there said it's one of the most incredible, most beautiful musicals they've ever seen. How much fun did you have doing that?
I mean, I said this to you. There's nothing like being able to go to the beach during the day and then go do a show and make art that you love that's, innovative and thrilling. And that show really is all those things. It is a really beautiful piece of theater. It follows the journey of a heart in a transplant over 24 hours, and it is so exhilarating. And the music is like electronica meets pop meets some musical theater. It's really, really special. And the cast, I mean, you saw the cast. The cast out there was so stacked. It was another one of those experiences where I would look around in rehearsal and be like, I am working with people who, like 10 years ago, I was like, gosh, I hope one day I can meet them and I get to share the stage with them. It was a really special experience. And I hope that it's got some plans in the future.
Well, like I said, everyone who's seen it said I can't wait to see it in New York on Broadway. So we'll put it out there into the Broadway world, ether, and we'll see what happens. Now, you made your Broadway debut as Bach in a little musical called Wicked.
Never heard of it.
Okay. So what I want to ask you is, Broadway debuts are magical. They only happen once. What do you remember about your Broadway debut as Bach in Wicked?
Oh, I remember so much. I remember only being able to eat bananas the day of because everyone was like, bananas are a thing that can really make you be less nervous. And so I must have had like 8 bananas that day. I was just like sweating banana. I remember my whole family flew out there in California and they flew out for that. And I remember when Bach makes his entrance in that like diddle-a-doo-doo in the we were friends at school that you come on stage. And I, of course, didn't tell my parents, and my parents, although now they're very big theater and art buffs, they weren't necessarily before I started a career in this. And I remember I heard my dad in the, 2,500 seat Gershwin 2,200, heard my dad from center orchestra go, like like a very loud noise because he was like, God, that's my son. And I remember, funny enough, hearing that made me feel so calm because I was like, of course, had so much anxiety and exciting and nerves, and hearing my family and that reaction, I was like, okay, this is like, it's just like any other show that I've been able to be a part of. It just so happens to be Wicked on Broadway at the Gershwin Theater.
That's why I remember talking to Tommy Tune, and Tommy Tune said putting on a show is the same thing if you have $20 or if you add the zeros and you have $20 million. It's just more lights, it's more sets, it's more everything, but it's the same creation. And, it's like, because I wish you could step out of yourselves because you live in the light. What
Mm.
you see is a whole different perspective that we see as an audience, but you love living in the light, don't you?
I do. I mean, I'm Asian and Jewish, so I've got my own degree of anxiety about that too. But yes, there is nothing quite like doing the thing that you love in the limelight and hoping that other people enjoy it. It is really nothing. It's a transcendent feeling.
Okay, now you were also the first Asian American to play the title role in Dear Evan Hansen. Tell me what that honor meant to you both personally and professionally.
Well, I think professionally, that was the first time in my career where someone, a producer, Stacey Minich, who was the main producer of that show, who I love and still have a relationship with, she gave me that opportunity to lead that show, and it was something that I'll always treasure because I always think that it's between, it's always opportunity. That's always the thing that's the difference between people, right? Everyone in this city is so remarkably talented. Everyone in this place is so incredible. So having that opportunity unlocked something in me of my psyche of what I was able to do. And I learned so much about my artistry and like the kind of artist I want to be by doing that beautiful, difficult, challenging show. It was a great example of like not high risk, high reward, but like high challenge, high reward. I mean, that show, you open the laptop, Dear Evan Hansen, and you don't come up for air until you take the final bow. And that was, I mean, I was with that show for 3 years, including the pandemic, and it was just one of those life-changing opportunities. And in terms of the representation, I think a part of the reason why growing up, I never really thought that it was some like being in entertainment or being a performer or an artist was something I could do is because of course, there were people who were paving the way, but there was not a lot of Asian American people who were doing that. And so I think having that experience and hearing from my community like how meaningful it was took me by surprise and made that experience all the more rewarding for me.
See, I love, it's about opening a door. And not everybody does it. Stacy opened the door for you. And I tell people all the time, everyone says, oh, yeah, I do this, I do that. I said, no, I think a lot of directors and choreographers and people have to remember that someone opened the door for them early on. And I'll tell you, they all forget it. So I just love to hear stories when people said, someone like Stacy opened the door for me when there were, 10 other,
Hundreds of others.
you know what I mean? It's just that.
Absolutely. It's all about the opportunity. And then, and then what you do with that opportunity, you like you honor it and you level it up and all those things. But it is about just that ability for someone to say, I believe in you. Let's see what happens.
Well, you were superb in that, my friend, as you were superb in everything you do. Now, I wanted,
Yeah.
if we're lucky in life, we receive some wonderful advice from somebody in this business. And
Mm.
you got some from someone who I loved dearly, the late, great Peter Scolari, who you
Ooh.
did Wicked with. Tell me the advice that Peter gave you.
It's so funny because as soon as you said advice, I was like, I'm going to talk about Peter Scolari. So I'm so glad that you brought him up. Peter was the wizard when I was Bach, and I was like, I was like 20 when I did that. Was a little baby, and I remember I had so much imposter syndrome, and I was so nervous, and I was so anxious all the time. And I remember my parents came to that opening, and we like went to dinner very quickly after that, Peter and my family. And Peter explained, both for me to hear and for my parents to hear, equally important, because I told you, my parents don't really have a lot of experience in the art world. He said, your son will experience the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. And for me, looking at me, he was like, you have to figure out how you can tolerate all those feelings. And for my parents and for my family, it was similar. It was like, how can you assist him? How can you support him emotionally through that? And I remember it's still something that me and my family that we talk about on the daily, because this industry is not for the faint of heart. It is so beautiful and can be so rewarding, but it's also really intense, and post-pandemic has changed. And so that advice has stuck with me and is something that I tell other people now, because it's like I think it's unlike any other industry that we work at. What we work in is unlike any other industry because the highs are so incredible, so vast. One minute you're on the stage singing a song opposite Idina Menzel, and then the next you're like, okay, what am I going to do next? And what is, and it, of course it shifts and it changes and ebbs and flows. But that advice was something, when you really take that to heart and figure out the why for yourself and how you tolerate those things, and make yourself feel whole when your work might not be, invaluable. And the fact that I got to start thinking about that at such a young age, I think has been a really key factor for why I'm, still here, and not, that it's been billions of years, but that I'm still thrilled to be here and thrilled to be in the city.
You know, being creative is so emotional, and they say get it. They always say get a backbone, but if you get a backbone, you're covering stuff up. It's just so hard. You know what I mean? Because you want to be open for anything you're doing, and then when it's pulled away from you, you have to sort of process the whole thing. So but you know, we all love what we do. You love what you do. That's why you're doing it. You mentioned Idina Menzel. You were sensational as everybody in that show. We're talking about the musical Redwood, which I got to see numerous times at the Nederlander. Sharing the stage. I mean, I spoke to you a lot during that, but sharing the stage with Idina and Tina Landau, and just being a part of that. First of all, sharing the stage with Idina and singing with her, like, what is that? Or getting to know her, what is that like?
I remember when I did the first workshop of that show, um, the first time I got to sing that song with her, I remember I like was singing. I was so confident. They're like, okay, we're gonna review it with you, and then Adina will come in at some point, and then you'll sing it through. And I was like, great, I'm so ready. And as we got through like my solo parts, and as soon as we got to the duet moment, or the part where she joins in that song, I forgot everything, forgot all my words. I was just staring at Adina. I was like, this is this really? I was like, is this really happening right now? But she was, as everyone says about Adina, she was such an incredible scene partner and human and like mother in so many ways in that show. And Tina was such an incredible collaborator. I loved that experience. Of course, I wish it had run longer, but this is the business we work in. But it was such a special and experience. I feel like I've been really blessed that I've done a lot of like different things in the city, from like a basement show off Broadway to like, big Gershwin or whatever. And I think something that I count my blessings every day is that all those experiences have been really incredible ones, really ones that I've learned a ton, have been so invaluable to my growth as a human and artist. So definitely Redwood fits in there too.
So let's talk about November 25th. I mean, Seth Rudetsky, had you worked with Seth before?
Yeah, Seth and I, actually specifically with Redwood, we did a bunch of interviews, and I think we debuted my solo through his radio show. And since then we've and before then too, we had done stuff and overlapped. There was that version of Thin, that show, where we did it at, oh shoot, I can't remember the venue of that, but he got a huge Broadway cast together to do that. And I just love collaborating with him. He's such a funny, intelligent goof, and knows his stuff, and has connections with all of the people and all the right people. And I think that he has been a really invaluable person to me, and I hope to continue to do incredible things with him.
Because I've been talking to people who are doing this tonight, and of course, Seth, you all talk about stuff, and you're like, let's do a duet with that you would never have done before with, you know, Taylor's doing one too with Nikki. So I mean, I know about that already too. So you can leak it out here to Broadway World. It's only going to go out here.
What did she tell you? What is she doing?
Oh, she's doing one from Chess. So
Oh,
now, since I just told you that, you have to tell me what you're doing here. And if
okay.
anyone gets in trouble,
Okay. The rumor on the street is that I may be doing Suddenly Seymour with Schmoy Schmutz. which would be a dream role of mine, absolutely, forever and always.
You should play that role.
I would love to. I would love to. Do you know anybody? You know anybody who
Oh yeah, we're just putting it out there in the Broadway world. Just trust me. Like, oh my God, why did we not think of Zach for this role? I live right across the street. I'll stand in front of a theater and tell them, listen. But
Yeah,
seriously, is that a dream role? Like in your mind, besides Seymour, is there something else like, or when you grow up, is there a
yeah.
role you'd be like, wow, when I,
Well, yes, I would say that I right now my heart is so in creating new work and doing
yeah,
new characters and has been at least for the last, 5-ish years. But my very first show that I did that was like one of those moments where I was like, I think I might want to do this when I was in high school was Les Mis, obviously. And so I think if there was a world in which they would cast the shortest Jean Valjean in like 30 years, it would make my theatrical life cycle complete. And my mother would just kaputs.
we'll just give you some boots.
There you go. I can just be a kind of short, medium height Jean Valjean.
Why not? Oh my gosh, getting you on a turntable. I many people who've done like this, and they're like, oh my God, you get on the turntable and all of a sudden you fly off.
Oh God, I can't do that. I don't know that. I mean, I can, I will, I'll do anything, but the turntable sounds crazy. I mean, but at the same time, if we can do that rake, I mean, the Gershwin's rake, we had a rake at Niederlander and at Evan Hansen, like those things are crazy too. So,
I
but
was talking to Shoshana Bean, and she was like, I think her first performance on, she comes barreling out the door
yeah,
as Elphaba and slides right into the orchestra pit on that, on the circus.
every time I entered with Nessa Rose in Ozdust, I was always terrified that I was just going to let her go and go right into the pit.
It's,
Oh God.
but Shoshana was like, I just made it part of my character. I'm lifting myself out. Her first performance on stage, I think it was, picking up her suitcase, like, here I am. Like live theater. That's what it's all about.
That is too much. That is too much.
Okay, so I know you probably have to go back to rehearsal, but let me ask you something. What are you looking forward to the most about November 25th with this incredible lineup of Broadway stars just singing your faces off at Carnegie Hall?
I'm excited to obviously perform, but I'm excited to share space in the green room with all these people, some of whom, I know and do and have worked with before, and just to kind of feel that magic, before we all go on stage and share a stage. But pretty much everything. I'm excited about the whole thing.
Yeah. I think I've known you since you did Bach on Broadway, but
I
it's so
think so
great
too.
to have watched your career of what's happened, and you were one of the nicest people in the world, besides being one of the most talented. So I'm going to put it out there. I want to bring Les Mis back, starring you as Jean Valjean. Okay, so once again, Malloy University presents Seth Rudetsky and his Broadway friends on Tuesday, November 25th at 7 p.m. at the iconic Carnegie Hall. It will be an intimate evening featuring Broadway stars singing songs they did as kids, community theater, junior high school through college, and of course, what made them big stars on Broadway. Tickets are available at carnegiehall.org. I will see you there, my friend, on the 25th, just so you know. I adore you, everybody. We'll see you at Carnegie Hall, and let's see you at the theater. Take care, everyone.